Right, everyone, welcome and thank you for coming to today's event. Today's panel is for students, right, who are interested in law, policy, and related pathways. So today we have representatives from the UW Evans School, so the Evans School of Public Policy and Governance. We also have a representative from political science, as well as the School of Social Work here at the University of Washington. While our, different departments and disciplines may kind of approach things from different perspectives, you'll find that in a lot of ways we are very much interconnected and interrelated. You might find some overlap in terms of subject matter and what our students are really passionate about. Before we get started with the panel, I wanted to go ahead and have folks introduce themselves. So I will go ahead and let Bianca take it away.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. My name is Bianca Salazar. I am the academic advisor at the Evans School of Public Policy and Governance. My pronouns are she, her, and it looks like we're also sharing a fun fact about ourselves. One fun fact about me is that in undergrad, I was a student conductor with our wind symphony. Yeah. I will pass it over to Mira.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mira Roy. I'm the Director of Academic Services for the Political Science Department. Let's see. I know I have the questions here. My pronouns are she, her, and I don't know what to say as a fun fact. I don't know, I worked in the law office when I was in college, and that was how I helped to fund myself back then. Thanks, Sarah. And I'll pass it off to Larissa.
Hi everyone, I'm Larissa. I'm the BASW recruiter. My pronouns are she, her. Fun fact about me. I don't know if this is fun. I don't think it's fun, but it's a fact. I graduated from the BASW program.
Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves, and also a big thank you to Donby from NextGen for joining us as well as Alejandra, who will also be operating behind the scenes with me and taking care of the chat as well. We're going to go ahead and get into our pre-prepared panel questions. If you have questions now or during the panel, please go ahead and leave them either in the chat, or you can use the Q&A function here in Zoom. I know we have kind of a smaller group here today, so feel free to put it in either one. Sometimes we have, if questions get in the chat, it can be easy to lose them, but I think because it's a smaller group, that should be okay. But okay, to start us off, just to kind of provide that context and that background for students who maybe are not familiar with the UW system as well, or all of the programs that we have available, do you want to first kind of introduce the majors and the degree programs that are available at your department?
Sure, I can start us off. So historically, the Evans School is a graduate school, so we do have a lot of graduate programs as well. But for undergrads, we have the Bachelor of Arts in Public Service and Policy and the minor in Public Policy. The major is geared towards students who are looking to become actors in the public policy sphere, while the minor is more geared towards students who are looking to just understand the way policy works within the context of what other majors they are in. Both of these programs are very interdisciplinary, so they're very compatible with a lot of other programs that are offered at the University of Washington as well. If you are interested in graduate programs as well, we can talk about that. We have a Master of Public Administration, which would probably be a little bit more relevant for undergrads looking at grad school. But we also have a PhD program and a couple of graduate certificates. So even if you're not in the MPA at a later time, you can still engage with Evans School courses in that way. But yeah, that is a general overview. Thank you to Alejandra for sharing those links in the chat. Looks like we'll be talking about structures at a later time, but we also offer like non-academic programs such as NextGen, which I can also talk about later.
In political science, we have a major and two options. We have a general major that is 50 credits, and then options in political economy and also international security. Those are both a minimum of 20 additional credits and are interdisciplinary. At the graduate level, we have a PhD program. And that's it for us at the graduate level. But what's great about our PhD program is that our graduate students are TAs, and they are really some of the best teachers that I've come across in my almost 30 years at UW. So we do have discussions in a lot of our classes, and yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things that makes those larger lectures come alive for students.
Yeah, at the School of Social Work, we have our BASW, which is our undergraduate degree. And what really attracts students to this degree is that if you were to obtain it, you would qualify for our advanced placement program. So that means that you could obtain our MSW in 1 year. So you could get your master's in social work. And we also have master's programs at the School of Social Work as well as PhD programs.
All right. Thank you all for kind of setting the scene there. Now that we've kind of talked about that kind of higher level, what kind of degrees and programs are available, can you talk a little bit more in depth about what that coursework really entails? So at the undergraduate level, right, are there several required courses? How much flexibility is there? What kind of courses can students anticipate? So for example, some majors may be very traditional, like test heavy, like a lot of scantrons, a lot of multi-select questions, right? Some courses or some majors at the UW might be more discussion heavy. You might find more presentations or more essays. Can you speak more about what students can experience within the major?
Absolutely. So broad view, the BA in Public Service and Policy is 70 credits total. The minor is 20 credits. Both programs require a completion of Pub Pol 201, our intro course to public policy and governance, to be admitted into either program. And as I said before, both programs are very interdisciplinary, so you'll be gaining a lot of skills in various areas. For the major, our foundational courses really center around understanding the context in which policy is created and implemented, and also expanding on communication, management, and leadership skills. Our major is very focused on tangible skills building, so you'll be finding a lot of that in our foundational courses, especially. Um, Big picture, 35 credits of the 70 total are foundational courses at Evans, so they must be like courses at the Evans School. And then 4 to 5 credits in statistics is also required, and then 30 credits total in lower division and upper division electives. That's where you're going to find a lot of the flexibility, especially in terms of overlap with other programs and departments. But for the Evans School courses itself, we have a sort of breakdown of the foundational courses in different areas. So there's policy context, methods in which you'll be, actually learning research methods that are foundational for policy making, leadership and management, and then application and practice, which is going to be your culminating capstone-ish experience at the end of the program. In terms of like what you can expect from coursework itself, it's kind of a mix of lectures and practical application, as well as like exams and essay-based projects as well. So you're really going to get a broad a broad range of experience in the classroom. So there's really something for everyone, both in the major and in the minor.
There we go. In political science, the major is organized around four major fields, and then there's a fifth field that we sometimes offer classes in. Those four fields are American politics, international relations, comparative politics, and political theory. And then the fifth field is methods. To get into the major, students need to take three introductory courses. And so those are Introduction to Political Theory, American Politics, International Relations, Comparative Politics, and then also Introduction to Politics or Political Science, which is offered at a lot of the community colleges in Washington State. Students can enter the major when they have taken two classes and are in the third class. So we actually bring in students when they're finishing up their last class to get into the major, because then they can start taking upper division classes their very next quarter, classes that are restricted to majors. Let's see, political science is more academically oriented, with a lot of reading and writing. That's what students need to be prepared for, which is great preparation for it's just great preparation for whatever career they want to pursue afterwards, just in terms of building those basic skills. And then there are other skills that are taught in the classroom, depending on the faculty. We tend to have essay exams, if there are exams, and very rarely have scantrons. It's just not how we tend to do things in this department. We also have a very interesting faculty. Our faculty, there's no orthodoxy among them. And what that means is when the department is hiring new faculty, they look for the people doing the most interesting work. And it really creates a very dynamic, it creates a very dynamic environment in the department.
At the School of Social Work, we are a cohort model. So that means that you will be with the same students for 2 years, and there's not much flexibility within what classes you take because we are a cohort model. So you will be taking, you'll have a set of classes each quarter, and it'll be same for all 50 students. The first year, you're really, sorry, my dog's at the office today. She wanted to say hi. Um, but your first year, you're really taking courses, building those foundations on social work. And then that second year, you're taking those skills that you learned through your books, through your readings, through your discussions, and putting them into action. So you're going to be going out into the field that second year. We're not very much a exams type of program. We're more of writing papers, having conversations. There is one part where you do get videotaped to see how you're interacting with your clients, interacting with the people you're working with. So yeah, same as like political science, Scantrons not really existent here. Yeah, so it's very much more about reading, writing.
Okay, thank you so much for highlighting those kind of curricular differences and the different kinds of like skill sets that students would need to succeed in these programs, like reading and writing skills. That's the first time I learned about our students being recorded to know and kind of see how well they're kind of interacting in those settings. Really good to know. Something else that I think that would be really important for us to discuss is, sometimes students set out with the idea of, you know, law or policy, that sounds good to me. I'm interested in that. Where do I start, right? So what kinds of courses would you recommend for students that are maybe interested in learning more about your major or trying to kind of get that entry point into the field, if you will?
All right, there we go. Yeah, so the number one course that I would recommend is PubPol 201 for our major and minor. That's Introduction to Public Policy and Governance. I mentioned before that this is our required course for entry into both programs, and as part of our like minimum requirements for entry to the program. The other one is like 45 credits at the University of Washington or in college credits, depending on which program you choose. Other courses that I would also recommend, I guess first off, I'll say that none of our courses are restricted to just Evans School students. All of them are open to students from any department, except for our policy lab, the culminating project, and the internship credits as well. Other courses that you might think about if you're interested in learning more about policy or exploring majors, methods of policy inquiry, um, that's PubPol 303, PubPol 301 as well, Truth, Evidence, and Public Policy Analytics, but also any topical courses that you might be interested in. So like say you're interested in like environmental policy, we have courses in that you can take as part of any of your elective requirements for any other programs. Connect with your advisor on that one. But if you just are interested in general electives, we have those kinds of topics as well. Like I said, environmental policy, nonprofits and philanthropy, educational workforce policy, those kinds of things. So really any entry point is good. But if you are new to the policy sphere or don't really know where to start, PubPol 201 is the most recommended course for that.
In poli-sci, I'd probably say one of the introductory courses is a great place to start. Those courses are all, what's the word? Survey courses. They're survey courses. So they cover a little bit of a whole bunch of different areas. And really great introduction to learning about the American political system in a class like Pol Sci 202, or political theory from the ancients to contemporary times in Pol Sci 201. In Pol Sci 203, it's the international system, how academics and practitioners understand how the international system works. And in comparative politics, looking specifically at different countries, different cultures, different governments, how they function, and learning from that, drawing comparisons and learning from the comparative process. That being said, I think it's also a great thing if a student sees a class at the 300 level that they want to take and that they can get into, because sometimes you want to just dive right into something that might really interest you and then find out through that you want to take more. So I think either way can work really well. I should also mention we do have a minor. I forgot to mention that earlier. It is 30 credits. It is 30 credits. And for that, students only need one introductory course, not three.
What courses I recommend if you're interested in social work. So most of our courses are only for students who are admitted into the program. The only course that is available to all students would be Social Welfare 200. So if you are in that exploration phase, if you are thinking about social work, I definitely would recommend Social Welfare 200, because there you can learn a bit more about what is social work, because it's a very broad field. But if you've taken it and you're interested in other courses, definitely recommend taking a statistics class, because it is required in the program. So you can get that out of the way. Also would recommend taking just classes that have to do with people. And if you're interested in law, taking law classes, they all intersect in social work. So take poli-sci classes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, any class that has to do working with people, working with systems would be helpful when you're in the social work major.
Okay, thank you for sharing. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like there's a lot of different kinds of like entry points and experiences to kind of introduce students to the field. And that's also kind of the beauty of that liberal art style of education that you get here at the UW. You also have those general education requirements that you're completing, and those are across a variety of different disciplines or fields. And so you'd be surprised, like the number of classes that you could take and can completely like spark an interest in you, something that you never knew about before. I know that's definitely what happened to me when I was an undergrad. You know, you take one class and you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then next thing you know, it ends up being your major, what you get your master's degree in. So kind of interesting how, you know, your academic pathway can really change over time. Kind of shifting gears a little bit, to kind of go back to the idea of, you know, how students could pursue, you know, one of these several majors, maybe they're majoring, double majoring, minoring. Um, you know, where are students, you know, taking their degrees? What are they hoping to do after they, you know, complete that major or complete that degree in that program? I thought it was really interesting, and kind of what sparked the idea of this event was learning how some of our students do go on to like pursue a JD or do go on to pursue work. For example, one of our current students is doing their practicum for the state senator. And so, kind of seeing how all of these various paths converge makes me curious. Yes, please tell us more. Where do your students go afterwards?
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit before, we are historically a graduate school. We actually launched the BA in Public Service and Policy last spring, and we're still, well, we're going to be graduating our first students this year, which is very exciting. All that to say is that we do have organizational partners, you know, with employers in Washington State, but we don't have undergrad graduates there yet. What I can say, however, is that our programs are very much geared towards preparing you for the workforce. And some organizational partners that we have, they really span sectors. So when you hear public policy and governance, yes, you mainly think like state, local, and federal government, but we do have students who have gone to nonprofits and philanthropies, NGOs, and even private sector as well. So some of our organizational partners include City of Seattle, King County, Washington State, Microsoft, Sankofa Consulting, the Gates Foundation, Fred Hutch, Seattle Indian Health Board, and Sound Transit. Some job titles also include things like policy analyst, legislative aides, research analysts, lobbyists, auditors, things like that. So if any of those things interest you, we have those connections in place. Of course, we can't like actually place you anywhere, unfortunately, but we do have those connections, those alum, to get you hopefully where you want to go.
Yeah, and in political science, that most of what Bianca mentioned includes where students in poli-sci will go after they graduate. So definitely the policy world, government, nonprofits, NGOs. But we also have a good number of students who go into law, like a lot of students who are interested in law, business. The founder of Costco was a graduate of our department. Political office. Our governor was a graduate of this department of political science at UW, as well as some past mayors and people on the city council. Education is another really big common pursuit after earning a poli-sci degree. And let me see, do I have anything else? I think those are the biggest ones. And then we have students who do all sorts of other things, but that kind of gives you an idea of the typical breadth. Because political science is a liberal arts degree, what students study really is more about I think it's helpful to study what you enjoy, because then you're going to learn, you're going to want to do your work. And that other part is definitely something to keep in mind, but there are many paths to get there. And I think that's one of the things that I really love about the liberal arts is that there are there it just there in some ways it can be overwhelming how much you can do, but it can also be very freeing.
At the school social work, I see a lot of connections between the career paths between the Evans School and Poli Sci because a lot of our students also go into similar career pathways. So policy analyst, working with the senator or even becoming a senator, uh, reentry or diversion program coordinator, so working with the legal system, also child welfare. So there's a variety of things that you can do in social work. So you could be social service or working with someone one-on-one or working more with communities or working more on like a policy level.
All right. Thank you all for highlighting kind of the versatility of those degrees. And yeah, truly, I think, I remember, prior to my role here at the School of Social Work, and I worked for general admissions. Um, Sometimes students just think of the traditional like JD pathway and becoming an attorney, but we know that there's so many roles, so many sectors that are outside of that, where students can really shine and find their passion. Something else that I think that would be really important to talk about is, a lot of the student experience is not just spent within the classroom, right? A lot of learning happens outside of that. And those experiences also help students understand, is this really the right path for me? Is this the right fit for me? So I was hoping you guys could also talk about what kinds of, volunteering or internship experiences, what other kinds of outside of the classroom experience can they gain to really make sure that this is the right fit for them? How can they get more involved, not only for, setting themselves up for success, but ultimately finding what is the best fit for them?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of like career pathways, especially, an internship is a great way to figure out if a certain field is right for you. And we do have the ability for students to gain internship credits that can be applied towards their upper division elective requirements. We do also have like some in-house career support, as well as like on Handshake for Evan School students. We have a curated list of internships as they come up that are available uh, for any students in our majors. But the one thing that I really want to highlight is the NextGen Civic Leader Corps, which is another experiential learning kind of opportunity. A great way for you to get volunteer experience and also figure out if public service and public policy is right for you. Thank you, Alejandra, for putting that link in the chat. But NextGen is a tri-campus initiative. If you are in the NextGen Civic Leader Corps, you are meeting with students from across the Seattle, Tacoma, and Bothell campuses to actually do public service work together. This is not just for Evans School students. I want to highlight that it is for everyone and anyone in undergrad across the three campuses. You do not have to be interested in pursuing either the Evans School major or minor to do this. You can do it whether you are in poli sci, in social work, or in anything else. Um, and I don't know, Donby, if you want to talk a little bit about it, whether in the chat or out loud. But they've got a really great group over there. You can sign up for the newsletter through the link that was shared. And yeah, it is a great way for students to develop their own civic awareness and explore careers in public service.
And we want students to get experience as well. And the NextGen Civic Leader Corps is one of the things that we promote to our students when they're shared by the Evans School. So we really appreciate that our colleagues do share those opportunities. We very much encourage students to get as much experience as they can while they're undergraduates because you just never know what might catch your fancy, what connections you might make. So in addition to internships, we have some research possibilities in the department as well. But I think one of the big things that we like to promote to students is the Washington State Legislative Internship, which students from every campus in Washington State actually participate in. They go to Olympia in winter when the legislature is in session, and they work with either a group of representatives or with the senator. Most of them, there's some other types of positions as well. And it really is a tremendous program for anyone who is interested in doing constituent work, finding out what it's like to work in government, finding out just about the political process and how it works at the state level. I mean, it's just a really great experience, and the coordinators there are fantastic. Students actually get to do a session themselves in the State House. It's just really, they're so excited when they do that. So, yeah, I think those are some of the highlights in our department. Let's see. And then we also bring in people when we can to talk with students. So our chair just did a big series in autumn, bringing in diplomats from all different walks of life to talk with students about what that kind of work is like.
At the school social work, we want you to get the skills of what it means to be a social worker. So that's through your classroom work, that's through reading, but we also want you to take it out into the field. So your second year, you will be in a practicum, which will take most of your time. And a practicum is very similar to an internship, but it's a bit more structured towards social worker, and your supervisor most likely will have an MSW, so they'll be a social worker. And you will work with someone at the school who will support in placing you at a practicum site, and the practicum site can vary. So you could be at a nonprofit, which are most of them, or you could be, for example, when I was in the program, I was at the King County Juvenile Detention Center. So I was working in diversion cases. So I was a probation officer. So I was doing a lot of case notes, a lot of ensuring that young people were exiting the system and not re-entering the system, and a lot of also support in what happens after your probation is over. So working on a plan such as, are you going to school? Are you working? Um, so yeah, there's a variety of practicum sites that you can be placed while you are in the program, but the school definitely does want you to graduate with some type of experience in the field.
All right, thank you for sharing. It looks like there's a lot of different ways to enhance the student experience here. And something else that I thought we could talk about, and Bianca mentioned it a little bit earlier about how you guys have like in-house career services. I was curious to learn about how your guys' different departments support students that want to go on to pursue graduate level study. For example, right, Bianca talked about how you guys originally began like as a graduate school and graduate level programs. Political science also has a PhD as well. We have our MSW and our PhD programs. So basically, what kind of support is there for students that are probably going to go on and pursue graduate level study?
Yeah, absolutely. So for myself, I am more than happy to meet with students who are interested in pursuing graduate school. Mainly what I would be doing is helping students figure out like where to apply to, like if this is the right fit for them, how to go about also like deciding maybe after graduating from undergrad. Yeah. But if you want to talk a little bit more about like specifically Evans School admissions to the MPA or other things, my colleague Alejandra and I can definitely talk about that as well with you. We're available for one-on-one appointments, both of us, for that kind of thing. Yeah, she just shared the link in the chat. So more than happy to meet with anyone who is interested in pursuing grad school, either here at Evans or elsewhere.
And the same for us, meeting with students who are interested in law school or graduate school or getting whether graduate school, whether it's professional training, which could be a degree like an MPA through the Evans School. But we also just talk more broadly about what those possibilities could be, including Masters of International Studies, which is a huge area that a lot of students we find are really excited about. So let's see, for law school, I think one of the most important parts is for students to get clarity while they're undergraduates about whether this is really what they want to do. And so talking with students about that, about how to learn about themselves in that way. And then also we do a lot of coaching, for example, how to ask faculty for letters of recommendation. It can be really hard the first time to know how to do that, but we're here to help and to encourage and to coach. So it's one of the most satisfying, some of the most satisfying work I do as an advisor.
So at the School of Social Work, if you get a BASW, then you qualify into our advanced standing program. Well, you have to apply, but you qualify to be able to apply for advanced standing program, which allows you to get your master's in social work degree in 1 year. And in our master's program, we have three different specializations, and one of them specifically focuses on administration and policy practice. So if you are interested in more of working on policy level, you could do that at the School of Social Work, but also you could go to the School of Evans as well. So there's options, and everyone is more than happy to talk to you about the options that are available to you.
Yes, I would definitely say, when we advise students, we try to be very like open and honest and like transparent with them about, if this truly does kind of align with the program and your interests. At the School of Social Work, we're very much kind of centered around social justice and anti-oppressive practices, and that's also built into the admissions. Process for the MSW program. So again, I would say talk to all of the various programs and find what's best fit for you. Before we transition into kind of the live Q&A portion, just to kind of close us out, I wanted to give folks, a chance to kind of address any kind of myths or kind of misconceptions that may be surrounding their programs. Right, we have over 180 undergraduate programs here at the UW, so quite a few options. And for example, right, when people talk to us here at the School of Social Work, they might have a very particular idea in mind. But like we talked about, there are so many different ways that students take their degree. So feel free to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe the thing I hear most often from students is that they didn't know that a major in public service or policy was a thing. Um, I'm here to tell you otherwise. Yeah, we are here. We are, more than happy to talk with you about whether or not this is the right major for you, as well as to help you explore other options, poli-sci, BSAW, or anything in between. Yeah, we are here and we're here to talk.
I think the biggest myths about political science are that if you study poli sci, you want to be a politician or you want to be a lawyer. Students, as I said earlier, students go in a lot of different directions. But I think the other thing about law is that a lot of students want to study poli sci because they hear that a lot of lawyers have that undergraduate background, when really anyone who wants to go into law can major in anything. And so that's one of the things another thing that I really enjoy talking to students about is, do you want to do poli-sci because you're interested in it, or are you using it for something else? And is there maybe something else that you'd rather do? And we're really fortunate to have so many majors, so many opportunities here at UW for students to either add another major or a minor, or sometimes create their own course of study. And they can do that with their electives. it's really fun for students to realize that they have that freedom, especially as they get into their junior and senior years.
Um, at the school of social work, a lot of people think that well, the way people say it is like, oh, you work in child protective services, you're like taking kids away from like their home, which not the taking kids away from the home, but the child protective services part, that is a component. Like you could work if that's what you're interested in, but social work is so broad, you really could work anywhere with the degree. So if you were interested in working with children, you could work with children. If you want to work in public health, you could work in public health policy, in schools. It's just a very broad field that you could really do anything with it. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions. The other one is that you have to work in direct service. So you just have to work with people one on one, which if that's what you want to do, definitely you could do that. But you could also, again, work in policy if you want to work more on a larger scale, or if you could work with in nonprofits, you could do community organizing. So it's just a very broad field.
Yes, there are tons of different avenues that students can explore, and it's really wonderful that I think, yeah, a lot of times our students have a lot of shared passions and interest to kind of better communities and better systems and help others ultimately. With that, I want to go ahead and open things up for any live questions that we may have. Again, I know we have a smaller group today, so feel free to either in the chat or the Q&A, please let us know if you have any questions. I can also go ahead and stop our recording here, and this will also be shared with registrants afterwards. And yes, feel free to also unmute as well. I'll go ahead and I'll stop.